What we're doing is we're taking our natural infrastructure, which is our creek systems throughout the county, and we're going in and we're trying to improve them. We're trying to do work, physical construction work on those natural systems to basically try to fix their damaged components, the eroding banks and the debris and the collapsing banks and the lack of riffles and pools and different natural features that you would see, and we try to build it back to a more natural condition so it can convey and clean our stormwater. The Corps of Engineers came through Charlotte back in the 1920s and 30s and actually dredged a lot of our creeks and straightened them. And if we just let that continue to go, we'd end up, our creeks would end up being a source of pollution, basically, contributing to poor water quality in the streams. They wouldn't be aesthetically pleasing. We would have issues related to, drinking water quality actually too, because some of our creek systems drain into Mountain Island Lake, which is our drinking water supply. And so there'd be a widespread series of issues. But certainly there are some projects where time is of the essence. We have actively eroding channels. We have other infrastructure that's in and around our creek systems, power distribution systems. Our sewer system is a gravity-fed system that drains along a lot of our creek corridors. And so in some areas, project delays or delays in actually getting the design complete or getting easements from property owners can result in more time that goes on and more erosion, and can ultimately lead to failure of additional infrastructure that's in and around our creeks. So the timing is pretty important that we move forward. Oh boy, we've done a lot of great creek projects. Probably the most dramatic transformation, if you go near uptown Charlotte, along Kings Drive in that particular part of town, it was a complete transformation. Back in the 50s, the creek was buried and a mall was built on top of it, and it was degraded. There were flooding issues, and so we worked about 10 years ago in the early 2000s and opened up the creek. We uncapped it, we let natural daylight, we reforested that corridor, had a greenway, a lot of partnerships with developers to redevelop the Midtown area. And so now there's shops and residential overlooking the greenway and this more natural creek system. And that's probably our most dramatic transformation that we've had the last 20 years. Fortunately, in Mecklenburg County, we have a stormwater utility, and everyone pays into the stormwater utility based upon their runoff from their property, the impervious surface on their property, because all of that water it contributes to and trickles downstream and eventually flows into our creeks. And so we use that money to fund a lot of our work. We do chase after federal and state grants to help supplement that and bring more value to the citizens of Mecklenburg County, but our predominant funding source is a stormwater utility, much like the water bill that you pay for drinking water or sewer. You're paying for that service, and in Charlotte-Mecklenburg you're paying for a service to maintain our stormwater infrastructure. Yeah, really the main thing that we do on most of our projects is we try to put the creek back to a more natural condition. A lot of our creeks are kind of vertical, and they look like a box, and they're collapsing banks and they're eroding in. And we try to take them and make them like you would see in a more natural stream, and we narrow the bottom of the creeks in so that the base flow of the creek moves along, and you can actually hear and see some of the riffles and pools that you would see in a stream. And we slope it back to where the creek, when it floods, it starts to get out of its banks and it starts to spread out a little more naturally. And what that does is it slows down the water and allows it to create less erosion and less property damage in the future. And in some cases, it can modestly reduce flooding. Stormwater does run into our natural creek systems, and so it's important that we invest in those creek systems, make them beautiful, make them functional, and make them so that we can actually all enjoy them as well.